For 507 days, Hamas has been holding hostages in captivity in Gaza. 63 hostages remain in the terror dungeons. Hello everyone, I'm Westropp-Evans, and today is February 24th, 2025. This is the live daily briefing of the Israeli Citizen Spokespersons Office. US Envoy Steve Witkoff said, Hamas has to leave, I would say, physically. Witkoff went on to say that something different needs to be tried. Now, we know that the flooding Gaza with billions in reconstruction aid, when Hamas is in control, has a clear outcome. It brings hundreds of new terror tunnels, thousands of rockets, and more Hamas forever war. The US understands what Israel understands. Hamas cannot again be Israel's neighbor. Hamas parades coffins. Hamas ransom hostages for mass murderers. And Hamas murders babies with their bare hands. And Hamas repeatedly vows to do it all again, to do October 7 again and again. Now, for the future of all Israelis and of Gaza, frankly, Hamas cannot physically be here anymore. Now, here's where things stand right now with the hostage ransom deal. Hamas says it won't release more hostages unless Israel frees 600 terrorists. Something Israel won't do while Hamas holds dead hostage parades, forcing hostages to kiss their captives, or has horrifying body mix-ups, as was the case with Shiri Bibas. Now, at the same time, Israel is trying to extend the deal's phase 1 past the 42 days already planned to maximize living hostages returned now. Officials said an extension might see the release of 4 male hostages, all fathers, and other critically wounded hostages, in exchange for keeping a ceasefire during the next week's start of Ramadan. Now, my main takeaway is that we cannot trust Hamas to be anything but cruel, but hopefully they can be forced to let some of these hostages leave after over 500 days in captivity. Now, however, it is not all bad news. There is some light in some parts of the horizon. Turning to the north of Israel, and the Hezbollah terrorist army in Lebanon is under enormous pressure. Its military has been severely degraded. Its finances are strained. Its reputation has taken a hit. And many of Hezbollah's constituents in southern Lebanon are asking, why did Hezbollah go to war for Hamas? It brought nothing but ruin. Hezbollah does not have enough cash to compensate its constituents, to repair damaged properties, and to treat its many wounded fighters, including thousands who were injured when their pages exploded in their hands. Now is the time to increase pressure on Hezbollah and the Iranian regime that supports it. Now is the time for the people of Lebanon to disarm Hezbollah, willingly or otherwise, and to sign a peace agreement with Israel in order to build a better future for both peoples. All right, now let's take some questions from our audience watching live on social media.
Thank you, Asher. Our first question comes from our Instagram stories. What about the other 7 fronts and the threats that are facing Israel?
Yes, well, as we've seen, these 7 fronts are absolutely all still alive and continuing for the time being. We just heard from Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who spoke about how Israel is facing these varied threats on his border. His latest statements said that Israel would stay on Mount Hermon in order to defend against any potential onslaughts from Syria. That they would stay at 5 key points in southern Lebanon in order to protect positions there. That the IDF would stay in West Bank positions in order to protect against any terror activity, as we've already seen coming out of the West Bank. And they are ready to return to Gaza should the ceasefire deal break down. Looking further afield, he also said that Syria's new Islamist government could not come into southern Syria, including primarily Druze areas and areas on Israel's border.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Yael on YouTube. What do we know about the situation in which Israel is in Syria and the connection to the Druze community?
Well, yeah, as I just alluded to there, Israel is ensuring that there is protection for the Druze community that exists in southern Lebanon. As we know, the Druze community are a split community. That is, there is a large section that exists in the Golan and other parts of northern Israel. And there is a community that exists in southern Syria that has been under threat, was under threat by the Assad regime, and now sees an unsure future under the current regime in Syria. Israel is working to protect the Druze people who have, for the longest time, been staunch members of the Israeli community and allies. Some of our greatest fighters and warriors in the IDF come from the Druze community, and they are heralded as great leaders, thinkers, and actors in the Israeli community. Israel will do all it can to protect its Druze community and to ensure that Druze anywhere have the right to freedom and self-determination wherever possible. This is a key tenet that Israel is fighting for and is ensuring that Syria and any militant actors that may take action there in southern Syria will not threaten that community.
Thank you. This is our last question. Marla on Instagram is asking, did the ratio for hostages to prisoners change? Why are we releasing 600 prisoners for 6 hostages?
Marla, no, the ratio did not change. We're factoring there with the 600 prisoners, of course, the living hostages that were released previously, but also in exchange for those hostage bodies, in this case, the last three members of the Bibas family and Oded Lifshitz. This was the deal that Israel was forced to make, this ransom deal that Hamas made them make in order to get our people back. This is the situation that Israel faces. Both living and dead hostages are exchanged for terrorists, for murderers, for prisoners from Israeli prisons. This seems like an unbelievably unfair deal, and I think everyone around the world can see this. But unfortunately, as we've said in the past, Israel is a country that values life, that values the integrity of life, and values its people, again, whether living or ultimately whether dead and being returned as hostages. Whereas Hamas is a death cult who want to get their murderers back in order so that they may continue to enact acts of terror and stay in power for days, months, and in their eyes, years ahead. This is something that Israel cannot allow to continue. But unfortunately, in the realities of this situation, we have to participate in this sick fast for the time being until we can get past these sort of deals and deal with Hamas for good. Well, I want to thank you. That is all we have time for today. So thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Israel time. That's 8 a.m. on the East Coast. I'm Westropp-Evans. Thanks for watching.